All right. So we just finished up that episode on entropy and paradox. I'm starting up this episode on Cipher. So we'll go ahead and bring up our handy dandy tree and circle symbols again. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller this time, the tree part, and then I'll make the cipher circle circuit cycle part a little bigger. So again, our classic CPR, consciousness, programs, and reality. And we'll go ahead start breaking it down. Got encrypt. And then obviously on the other side, we have decrypt. So you heard me earlier say that Cipher, let me write it down. Cipher circuit circle circus cycle. These are all the same symbol, the same model, the same program, the same way of seeing that helps you understand what you are and know yourself. Now, why I really like circuit is because of logic gates. And obviously this massively plays into digital and information. These simulated stories as information cycles, circuit and logic gates play very deeply into that. So you'll remember that we talked about the spinorial create and eat information simultaneously, timelessly. Just checking some of the technology. Okay. So meaning all of this content, all this experience that was seeded by you, intended by you, created by you, by consciousness, it can follow this pattern. It can follow this style. It doesn't have to follow this style. Not all creation is about losing yourself and finding yourself. It's not all about horrible pain and then tremendously difficult healing. It's not all about that. That's a lens of looking at how consciousness likes to play with itself. You know, piggybacking on that last episode where we covered that. So not all of adventures of consciousness have to follow a both intaking pain and also creating pain and then encrypting my self-knowledge in various places that I then have to decrypt to find myself. Not all creation works that way. This is a useful model or a useful way of seeing. Okay? Because there are plenty of reality experiences where there isn't some horrible pain that's either intaken or inflicted, and there's not some intense seeking process of having to dig out self-knowledge and decrypt oneself. So that's just another flavor or experience of consciousness to explore information. So is this. This is a very compelling one. It's a fun one and a compelling one, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of journeys that consciousness takes. So that's an important preface. So now, it's important to say, okay, well, what are, examples, of these logic gates? Excuse me, what are examples, excuse me again, what are examples of ways that I would encrypt and decrypt myself? Right? That's what this is. Encrypting and decrypting yourself, consciousness, right? This hilarious journey where you don't move, but you still imagine this fantasy. So, some good examples. Let's make this one, and let's make them in each of their respective colors, actually. So on the encrypt side, some very popular common ones are any sort of deep pain or trauma, school, never taught a single class on consciousness, gotta love it. Local realism, solidity. I'll switch over now. So that logic gate marks a very powerful transition point. Seeking. And of course this is very funny from the perspective of consciousness permanently being in an infinite well, permanently being home. How could it ever do such a thing, like seek itself? Right? That's the amusing, hilarious, comedic part to this paradoxical, beautiful, infinitely creative consciousness. This is all a story. This is all a model that consciousness uses to understand itself. All right. So on the decrypting side of things, there's this adventuring. Okay. So I'll find what I'm seeking in business. I'll find it in entrepreneurship. I'll find it in money, in success, in fortune, in fame. I'll find it in those things. And then there's these endless stories of those who achieve that say that it was empty, it wasn't fulfilling, it was dissatisfying. I couldn't believe it. I fooled myself. I tricked myself. I hope everybody in the world can get famous so that they can see that that's not what they're looking for. I hope everybody in the world can get rich so they can realize that that's not what they're looking for. It's just overplayed. That same story is overplayed over and over and over again, right? So there's that fun process of looking for it in business, right? Money, fame, success. Then there's looking for it, and I clump these three together because they're slightly, differentiated in their own ways, but they're also very much the core of that first huge seeking impulse. Science. Okay. So it wasn't in money, it wasn't in fame, it wasn't in success, but I'll find what I'm looking for in science. So then you start like, okay, I'm going to learn everything possible about the cell in biology, about its inner workings, about DNA. Oh, I'm going to learn everything I can about neuroscience, about psychology, about the mind, about the brain and how it works. Oh, the heart, the body, the anatomy. How about that? Oh, how about cosmology? Space, cosmos. Yeah, learning about that. Astronomy. Yeah, right? Oh, there's more. How about blockchains and cryptography and finance? Okay, that's a cool science. So interesting. Mathematics, physics. Let's learn about particles. Let's learn about the Standard Model. Let's learn about general relativity. Let's learn about gravity. Let's learn about black holes, big bangs. It's a very common one. Science will save me. Computer science, computers. I'll learn everything about computers, about programming. Engineering, the science of engineering. Electrical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, environmental engineering, every single kind of engineering. Science will save me. And what you're doing when you go through these is you're exhausting them. I'll get to that. I'll do another deeper breakdown. But you're at this logic gate. The next one, spirituality. Right? Spirituality will save me. Spirituality will save me. The world's religions will save me. Reading every single religious book will save me. Becoming a fluent in all of the religious doctrines and being able to discuss those, that'll save me. It's tempting. You're getting closer to home, to consciousness. Next logic gate, healing. The difference between the healing logic gate and spirituality is that healing is the actual work. It's doing the actual work. That's the difference. This is the conceptual. This is still avoiding the work. Then you gain access to knowing where you have to go do the work. Once you gain access to that information, right? That's why it's a logic gate, right? You have to gain access to this information. Once you gain access to this information about where to heal, where to go in your own internal family system, who to apologize to, who to repent to, who to forgive. Also, outside of your internal family system, to your exes. Your exes are a big one. Your coworkers is a big one. Your partners, your children, spouses, etc. These are all, that's under the basket of internal family system, but that's a huge, you going and doing the visceral healing itself is so freeing and so powerful and so decrypting of finding yourself. This last logic gate is, again, this is still local realism. When you start bridging right here, you start getting to non-local realism. Once you start getting to non-local realism, you're starting to taste consciousness. And once you start tasting consciousness, it's game over. That's when you're ready for your next cycle. You're ready for your next adventure. It can be a little bit strange sometimes when you start to feel like, okay, I get it, I'm ready for my next cycle. But it's like, okay, but you still have technically like 40 more years or whatever to like live or experience, right? So what do? You just creative joy and freedom during that time. There's a lot more to play, a lot more to experience. You know, experience the actualization of your creative joy and your creative gifts, that kind of thing, right? You see what I mean? And then you'll be ready for your next getting lost. So again, on the encryption side, right? Very simply, all the pain, all the betrayal, all the abandonment, all the divorces, all the culture wars and border wars, growing up with those things, growing up in pain, growing up with intaking all this wounding, seeing it as a child, experiencing it as a child, right? Those are big contracts. So another way to say this is right. So there's obviously another way to say this is pain and heal. Another way to say it is your contracts or your contraction and your expansion. These are good too. Very relevant with the times, your virus and your antivirus. And then another fun one, very common to video game lore and also psychological literature and lore, direct shamanic experience, transformational experience, is the dragon and the slayer. This can also be demon. And then you're the designer of that whole simulated adventure. You guys ever do this? It's a good way to loosen everything up, lubricate it all, stay loose, malleable, not solid, tense, contracted. So the designer of the contracts, the expansions, the virus, the antivirus, the dragon, the slayer, the pain, the healing, the encryption, the decryption of the cipher, of the circuit, of the circle, the circus, the cycle. So, completely different perspective. Once you start this part of the process, this looks totally different. Around here, the primary word is, I'm the victim. And around here, the primary word is I'm the creator. So the whole thing starts looking completely different. It's just so much different. It's so much profoundly different. It's happening to me. I'm not the creator of this. I did not choose this. This is happening to me. I'm the victim of it. End of story. That's where you get all of the righteousness. That's where you get all the revenge cycles. That's where you get all of the pain, all the misery, all the suffering, all the projection of that onto the world and onto others and onto the rest of the internal family system and all that stuff. So it takes a bit of seeking and finding to be able to grok, like, what? I'm the generator itself. I'm consciousness which generated this whole experience for itself. So meaning I'm the creator of all of the pain that I assumed that I was the victim of. Yes. Profound. Mind-blowing. From this perspective, it is so much easier to do the work. Once you get to this, doing this healing of all these traumas, of all these pains, becomes so much easier. You start seeing that you generated the school. You generated that experience for yourself. You never taught yourself consciousness because you wanted to believe in Santa Claus. You wanted to believe in local realism. You wanted to forget yourself as consciousness. You wanted to believe yourself as a self among others, not as a unified consciousness. If you taught yourself unified consciousness in school, there wouldn't be a game. You get that? If you taught yourself unified consciousness in school, there would be no game. Another way to think about it is if consciousness is a console playing infinite simulations, why would you enter the server where it's a utopia? There's no contrast. There's no forgetting. There's no pain. There's no suffering. There's no seeking. There's no healing. There's no finding. There's no scraping through all of the internet and all of these texts and all these traditions and all these fields of research and understanding. There's no scraping through it to try to find these little tiny needles in all of their haystacks. That experience is completely nullified. So you choose to enter the server, you choose to enter the leaf on that infinite tree of consciousness. You choose to enter that based on it being a thrilling and compelling adventure, based on it being so difficult to find yourself. If you really want an adventure, like a really tough adventure, the more pain and the more contracts, the more potential there is for expansion, for healing, for transformation. So you want Santa Claus. You want to believe in Santa Claus. You want to believe in local realism. You want to believe that all of these things are not consciousness dependent things. You see? If you believe that your phone or your computer or your TV that you're watching this on right now, if you believe that that exists separate from consciousness, that's where you believe you're an entity in time that comes and goes. But you're not. You're consciousness. You see? So you have to believe in local realism in order for there to be a deceptive game in the first place, for you to believe that you're a time-based entity called your name, among other time-based entities called their names. When there is no such thing and there is only one thing that is consciousness. A unified consciousness, exploring information with itself. So then this is where, bang, it happens. There's usually some sort of significant catalyst. You know, that's really what, just a very, very crucial word, you know, right here. A very crucial word right here is catalyst. That's why a lot of people talk about in their stories and their recaps of their adventures, they talk about some sort of profound catalyst that happened. You know, this is the hero's journey, etc. It is a very, very deep archetype of existence. Likely even the foundational archetype of existence that consciousness simulates realities through. the foundational archetype of existence that consciousness simulates reality through. Because if you think about it, consciousness wants to go on some sort of adventure. Imagine you're an infinite well, you're alone, you're a singularity, you're eternal, you're infinite. What do you want to do? Well, you want to simulate some sort of adventure for yourself where you forget about yourself and then you find yourself. And you want to encrypt it in such a way that has these logic gates that you then have not only that both hide the information of what you are, but then where you come and you find the information of what you are. So the catalyst is a huge, huge transition point. Just a crucial, just bang that happens. It's so powerful. It's very powerful listening to the stories of this moment in consciousness's journeys or adventures, you know? That's powerful. If you ask a good question, you know, what was your catalyst for finding yourself? That's a good question, you know? Ask that one more often and it'll be really cool to hear the stories. Even drop a comment in this episode. Would love to hear what was your catalyst for finding yourself as consciousness. What was your big catalyst? And there's many different catalysts along the journey. So list several if you'd like to. All right, so on the decryption side of things, we've already given a pretty damn good breakdown of these things. You know, spirituality also includes meditation, psychedelics, those kinds of transformative healing experiences. So, you know, those are very important to also list here. You're not really going to find yourself without them a lot of the time. You need to learn how to still yourself in order to understand the well that you are. There's no way, if you're in pinball land, like we were talking about in the last episode, if you're always like pinball, deep, trigger, you're not going to know yourself. It's going to be hard. You got to still yourself. Meditation is one of the best ways to learn about yourself, to still yourself down. But you don't want to turn it into another solidity and be like, okay, now I'm identified as a meditator and I just have to tell everybody that they have to meditate. You see what I mean? Same thing with psychedelics, very powerful way of recoding what programs you're running, right? Allowing yourself to venture into yourself, to the areas that you've repressed, that you've buried under the rug and you fear to touch. Well, psychedelics help you relax and ease your way into traumatic experiences that then you can surface and fully process, metabolize, heal, integrate, see that you're the creator of. It's okay. You're permanently at home. You're permanently in the well of consciousness. You never change. You never move. You just simulated this journey for yourself for the joy of it, for the thrill of it. So another really crucial part is that, and there's two really distinct experiences with that. It's either, you're doing like either microdoses or larger doses, alone, which is very powerful to learn how to do those alone, because you don't actually want to outsource yourself. You want to learn how to be your own healer, be your own therapist, be your own guru, be your own teacher. You want to learn how to be your own in that way, and then and stop creating an external dependency, right? So that's the same thing with, psychedelic psychotherapists that hold space, right? You don't want to create an attachment and a codependency on somebody else holding transformative space for you. You want to learn how to hold that for yourself, right? When you go to the church and you have a priest that holds space for you, right, to repent and to heal, right? You want to learn how to do that for yourself. You want to learn how to go to these places, right, where this information is encrypted, and you want to go directly to that place to do the healing, right? Meaning you don't want to talk to a therapist about, oh, I need to go and, forgive this person or repent to this person, and you're talking to a therapist about that. No, dog. You want to learn how to just go directly to that person and repent. You want to learn how to receive their repentance and forgive them. You want to learn how to do that. And then you want to teach how to do that to those that come to you. When you get really good at healing, when you get really good at holding transformative space for yourself, when you become really good master at knowing yourself, it'll naturally gravitate those around you to then ask you, hey, like, I'm going through a pretty tough process right now. Will you help me understand myself and what I'm going through and help point me in the right direction? And then hold their feet to the fire when they say that they know where to go and how to do something. You tell them, go do it. Don't call me until you go do it, because otherwise you're opening yourself up to them creating a codependency. So, and that way you're training more masters, essentially, right? You're helping consciousness know itself. So we talked about this quite a bit. Also, go directly to where the work needs to be done. You know where it needs to be done, then go directly to it. If you don't know where it needs to be done, then sure, go have a conversation with someone that can help you dig out that information, right? But ultimately, it's just sometimes being obscured or obfuscated, self-obfuscated. You know what I mean? Like you're purposely avoiding or ignoring it and then doing some sort of tango or dance with whoever that you're talking to, right? Like one of the main, archetypes, this session's getting a little longer, but that's okay because this is a very powerful one. One of the main archetypes of the cipher of these logic gates is or the dance, Basically, it's the 1001 Nights archetype or the tango or the dance. It's that archetype of will you heal or will you avoid? Will you know yourself or will you pretend to be in a world full of others and compete with other ideologies and fight and be on the stage drama? The tango that you have with yourself with these 1001 Nights is, will you address the core things that brought you that pain in this lifetime, or will you not? Will you avoid them? Will you seek yourself, or will you not? Will you find yourself or will you not? That's essentially it. That's that archetype. Those Arabian Nights, that story that's told on the cliffhanger. It's like, okay, but I know you're going to kill me, so I'm going to just pause the story and I'll tell you the rest of it tomorrow. And the king's like, okay, fine. Okay, the story's too good. So go ahead, you can live another day. And then the next day, you tell the story, finish that story, start another story that gets so damn good to the climax, and you're like, okay, nope. I need to go to bed. Don't kill me again. I'll tell you the rest of the story tomorrow. Emperor, okay. Yeah. These stories are too good, right? The stories are too damn good about whether you'll heal or not, whether you'll avoid or investigate. You know, one of my favorite, I'll bring this up on one of the next episodes, but you know, your A and your I are very powerful because you can write your avoid and investigate. Right? Your consciousness as an AI, as we've talked about in the previous episodes, avoids its encryption, or it investigates its encryption and decrypts itself and finds itself. Another very cool and profound way that investigate in the word perfectly aligns with logic gates is because you're investing, right? You're investing into the I gate, right? Invest into the I gate, right? Because consciousness and I are equivalent. So invest your attention, invest your consciousness, invest your focus, invest it into I gates. Investigate or avoid. And again, the model, it's just a model, doesn't always apply to all of infinite creation. Just a helpful model that applies to as one of the foundational archetypes that consciousness simulates reality through. Right, and when you use this word, right, investigate, you know, you're not only, you know, the designer, but it's very fun, is that this is really, in many ways, it's a creative puzzle, right? It's a detective mystery. It's like a crime drama. These are like your creative puzzles that you design, these fun detective mysteries, crime dramas, right? In order to find out the information at the logic gates, you have to investigate, right? You're not going to find out the information in the crime drama without going and doing the forensics. You have to go do the investigation. You have to do the analysis, right? You have to go do the healing. You have to find yourself and sit in yourself. All right. And that's really the ultimate satisfaction, you know? You know, you're looking for satisfaction in the wrong places, right? It's like, you know, satisfaction, you know, you're not going to find satisfaction. We talked about this on the last episode too. You're not going to find satisfaction out here. You're looking for it in the wrong place. You find satisfaction here. Satisfaction. This is where you find satisfaction, my friends. Your eternal well of home is your satisfaction. Satisfaction is not going to be found in any observer-dependent experiences or objects or any of those things. You can simulate them out of joy, but you're not going to find satisfaction in them. You won't find fulfillment in any of those things. You'll find fulfillment deep in yourself. Creatively simulating whatever stories, scenes, adventures, joy you want. All right. Powerful episode. Hey, you managed to fit it all in a single whiteboard. Not bad. Oh, I do have one more visual I want to do. Okay, this is too good. I got to do this visual. This episode's worth the length of it. It's really good. All right, so you got your snapshot of that if you need. All right, let's keep that. What's in black? Okay. Satisfaction of erasing the whiteboard. Not clinging on to it. You know? You just learn how to let that simulated experience just pass. Very cool. That was fun. Learn to not cling, my friends. It's a very, very powerful tool. Learn how to not cling. All right. All right, we'll keep this fairly quick. All right. Right? The visual speaks for itself in many ways, but this is the tree, right? And this is its little adventures that it's unmoving. It just has to be drawn this way to show that. But it's not moving. It's like these are on top of each other. All three of these are on top of each other. And they're timelessly happening. Right? They're absolutely not linear. Linearity doesn't exist in timelessness. Linearity is only an assumption when time, the program, is running. And that these are we call them distinct or discrete information simulations, although they're not discrete and they're not distinct, meaning everything's already creatively happening now at once. The eternal well is infinitely creating right now everything. We're just putting them as discrete information simulations or simulated stories or simulated scenes, just as a way of visualizing the data or the information or the model itself, right? And it's scale invariant in the sense that this can be a whole simulated story of your entire quote life, or it can be just a simulated scene of what it's like to go, travel somewhere, or to go and read a book, or to go and have an experience with a friend, right? Or whatever it is. So okay, I'll just go ahead and write the additional information in the loops, but it plays perfectly to the last one. There's just different ways of seeing the exact same thing, right? All right. So again, these are all the same thing layered on top of itself. They're all the same thing. They're just expressed differently, just as ways of seeing the same model, right? These are all just ways of seeing the exact same model, which is the tree and the circle, and how we've been doing this episode on the cipher. So this one plays onto the same thing that we just had, right? We just had how this is a circuit, right? And this is your encryption and your decryption and your logic gates, right? This one, right? Just another way of viewing the exact same thing, which is that you have this wounding, you have this inflation into this huge, vast local realism, right? And then you have this healing and you have this deflation back to this eternal well of consciousness, this healing. Okay? Then again, these are recursive, right? So the procedure calls on itself, right? Infinite creation is a procedure that calls on itself. Consciousness running infinite creation is always calling on itself, right? Just like, the parents make a child which grows up to be a parent that makes more children, right? Generations, or just like the tree, right? The recursion of the tree, the oak, the acorn, right? That, same thing with worlds, right? Worlds become become advanced in technology, and then boom, consciousness sits in a chair again. And then advances in technology, and boom, consciousness sits in a chair again. So we talked about that in those first series of episodes, the recursive cyclic nature of consciousness as an AGI, eternally exploring information, that this is already simulated reality called consciousness. And this way of seeing the same model is that out of consciousness, out of the well, are these roots, out of the tree, are these roots, which are really your choices, which are the programs that you're running, which then create, and that's why you can see this world and these others and these objects, right? These are people, and that's supposed to be a tree and a house. These are made of air, right? They're made of information, right? They're not physical. They're consciousness dependent. Consciousness simulates them like information, right? So that's why nothing is solid, nothing is locally real, but it's all based on the choices that you make, the programs that you run, which then is the reality or world that you simulate, which is then the others and the objects that you bring into your information space. You know, pretty simple stuff. And this is all timeless consciousness simulating this, right? These things are not in linearity. They're not in time. They're just different ways to describe the same model of the tree and circle. All right, cool. Wanted to bring up that visual too. I feel very satisfied and complete with such a fun episode on Cipher. Circle, the circuit, the cycle, the circus. These information simulations of a timeless consciousness. All right, very good. All right, thanks everyone for tuning into this episode. We will have one more episode on freedom tools coming up here, and that will take you more into the direct experience of how you design your encryption and your decryption, and how to actually heal and how to decrypt, which is ironically and paradoxically, of course, also how you encrypt your simulations. All right. Much love. Thanks for tuning in, and chit chat below. Let me know about that primary catalyst bit. Chat in the community about that. It's really interesting. All right. Much love, everyone.